Hey everyone, this is Mark here at Gary's Guitars in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I'm here to talk about cables and your cable health and taking care of your cables. If you take care of your cables will take care of you. So I'm going to start by talking about some bad things to do to your cables and why they're bad. And well, actually, I'll just start by talking about what I do for my cables. So first of all, cables are made of mostly metal. They're covered in plastic or rubberized, plastic or some kind of rubbery stuff. And there's most instrument cables have a single conductor and a shield, and the shield's woven. And they, if taken care of, they'll last you 20, 30 years or more, your entire life. But I see people abusing cables. I see people just trying to ball up a cable and just throw it in a bag. This is a terrible thing to do with a cable. I see people tying knots into cables. They see, my cable's already unhappy since I balled it up once. So they'll wrap the cable up, and then at the end they'll kind of just do a little loop and a knot with this. That's a terrible thing to do to a cable. There's another thing where someone, I think it's a Berkeley professor, teaches his students to do this, to fold their cable in half and tie a knot in it or something like that. And then when they're ready to use the cable, they just yank on it and the whole thing, magically opens up. I mentioned that because I think someone recounted to me, oh, my Berkeley professor told me to do this. And never tie knots in your cables. There's no good reason to tie a knot in your cable. There are bad things that happen when you tie knots in your cables. So you want your cable is mostly metal, like I said, and metal has a memory. And if you teach it this shape, then it will just want to go back into the shape when it's not unwound. And it'll just be happy like this. And no big stress. But as soon as you yank on an end, never wrap your cable over your arm. Never wrap your cable around your hand because you're yanking on the cable and you're going to break strands. And so your positive end has, I'm going to guess, 25 strands, and your shield has a lot more probably. I'm going to guess twice as many strands because it's a shield and it's woven together. But if you yank on it once and break a strand and yank on it again, if you break a strand a month, in a couple of years, your cables will be dead. So strands get broken when you do any knots, when you yank on the ends at all. And when we see cables that failed and they are repairable cables, they have these switchcraft style ends. And we look inside, we'll see that the solder joint will still be intact, but the cable will be separated from it. It just got yanked on too many times. And the same thing with the shield. The shield goes throughout it, but it meets at one point here, and you yank on this enough, and or you can actually break the cable somewhere inside it too. So, my technique is you turn and gently wrap. So each time the cable comes around, you give it a little spin. Some people do the forward and back thing, which is totally cool, but not required. One side, then the other side, and then one side, and the other side, because the idea is you can throw it and it magically unwinds itself. That's not required. But what is required these days for me are these Velcro ends, because they now cost nothing. They might be 50 cents each. You buy them in giant rolls. I buy them in rolls and packs. And all my cables now live with them. This also goes for microphone cables. Give them a gentle wrap. And then I take my Velcro, put it around the end. And there's no reason to tie knots. Your cable will... back before, Velcro was around, or Velcro, but people would just tie little knots or wrap string around it. These things are great, and they're super cheap, so you should use them. So, coil your cables lightly, Don't yank on the ends, never coil over your arms, never put them into a ball, never tie knots in your cables. Treat your cables nice like that, and if you have a decent cable, it will last a long time. I have cables literally since the 80s that I still own. And then I have a bunch of cables I bought in the 90s when I opened my first studio, and I still have a lot of those cables still. If you get cables with Switchcraft, or Nutric, or quality ends on them, they're repairable as well. So if something happens, you can repair that. Certain cables have molded endings, or certain monstrous cables are not designed to be fixed. They're designed to be thrown away or returned for warranty purposes. When you buy a cable that's guaranteed for life and you can return it for warranty purposes, they charge you twice as much as the cable is worth, just in case you bring it back. So keep that in mind too. This CBI, I talk a lot about CBI cables I have today because they're made in upstate New York. They're made by people who've been working at the company forever, who like working there. They're treated well. We get them with Switchcraft ends for just a couple dollars more. Switchcraft are the best. Best of these ends are all the Switchcraft style. This one has a right angle on it. They are comparatively cheap compared to some of the premium maker cables. Although I consider CBI a premium maker because their cables are high quality, made in the USA, and reliable. I can't say that about Monster Cable, and I've been bad talking Monster Cable a lot. I was talking to our KMC rep. KMC sells only Monster Cable. And so I'm like, I'm sorry I've been bad mouthing so much. And it's true, they have made improvements to their cables. But a lot of failed Monster Cables out there. So, that's my cable rant. Thanks for hanging out. Take care of your cables, and your cables will take care of you. Garrett's Guitars, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Facebook, Instagram, wherever else you find media, look for us. This is YouTube. And check out our other videos, and thanks for watching.